it.
Okay, if you guys want to see that defeat, I mean, it's not on me, by the way. It's going to be Astralis versus Dusty the next game, which means if Astralis lose, they're going to be tied up with Dusty.
Absolutely.
Chaos. Chaos is happening on the Northern League of Legends Championship as teams are preparing themselves. But before we do that, we have a challenge over here at the NLC. We have the Lee Sin Jungle Clear Challenge, where junglers attempt to make a full clear of their side of the jungle the fastest way possible.
If they don't forget their smite.
If they don't forget their smite. Texer, I'm looking at you. But this time we have Dusty junglers, Linkas, that made actually a good clear while I was annoying him. So take a look at what happened.
Enough blind jokes. Stop asking for more.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Lee Sin Jungle Clear Challenge, this time with Dusty's jungler Linkas, and welcome, by the way. I see you're ready.
Yeah.
Tell me something. You never played Lee Sin so far in Summer Split. Why is that?
Not the best champion, I think,
Oh.
right now in the meta.
But you know how to play Lee Sin?
I wanna play it, and I know how to play it, but my coach won't pick it, I think.
Okay, Linkas, think about this. If you win the challenge, like if you're on the top of the scoreboard, your coach will be forced to let you play Lee Sin.
There's a possibility, yeah.
It's a possibility, man. That way, okay, you just need to win. So you need to make a really good timing to make sure your coach sees this and he's like, okay, I'm gonna give it to you, Linkas. I'm gonna trust you. So think of me as the coach right now. Convince me to allow you to play Lee Sin. How are you gonna start? With Q, with E, with W? What is the plan?
I mean, it's either Q and E. I don't think W is good when you wanna do it as fast as possible, so I'm probably gonna go with E. Because if I go with E, then I think it's shorter cooldown by 1, and then I can also hop over the wall of Q later on.
Okay.
So it's probably just gonna be the fastest.
Okay, I'm enjoying this so far. Big brain. Let's see what happens in the clear. So you don't have any sort of leash. Are you used to this? Do you practice with no leash when you try to go for the practice tool?
I mean, yeah. I usually just use double smites, or sometimes one smite, just to make it as leashless as possible, let's say.
Okay, a little delay, but it's fine, Linkas, it's fine. How do you think you're gonna fare? Like, how is the timing going for you? You think you're gonna do like 320, 327?
Like 325, I think, because I already failed a bit, but should be still fine.
But I'm not getting on your nerves though. It's smooth, right? It's smooth. Every single one, you have to kill all of them. Yeah, there you go. Oh, that is clean. That is clean. Okay.
Forgot to have Ghost.
It's 500 IQ. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And are you used to a full clear with Lee Sin, or would you tell us that making this challenge is really weird?
I mean, it's a bit weird because usually you just go for proactive clear, but yeah, gotta do what I gotta do.
Okay, now you have access to the W as well, and I want to see the juggle. So at the end, you're gonna call in the Grump and the Blue Buff at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll try to double cam them.
253. By the way, no scuttle. Don't texter this, okay? Don't you pull a texter on this. Oh, it's smooth. He leaves all the wolves. Ah, that is a perfect 3-7. That's the smite. How do you think you're going, Linkas? You think you're gonna do it? The 325?
I'm gonna be faster than MC for sure. That's all I'm gonna say.
Ooh, not even close. Hey, that is actually fast. 324, 5, 6, 7. 327, Linkas. How are you feeling about this one?
Should have been, according to my plan, like 7 seconds faster, but I'll take it. It's fine.
Hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. Thank you so much for this one, Linkas, and good luck with Dusty. Coach from Dusty. Come on, man. Let him one game. Come on. It's still soft in first place on the challenge.
It's
If
still
only
boggles my mind how Taxa is second without Smite.
Without Smite, what is that, Texer? I'm so proud of you and disappointed.
If anything, is that our best listen in the league?
I don't know. The cool thing is, Linkus will play versus Texer now.
True.
And Linkus wishes he would be able to pick Lee Sin. He said that. Give me your thoughts on this one.
I already said that I'm not sure about Lee Sin in the current meta.
Why?
I come from experience, unfortunately. I have seen some games already throughout the split after the durability patch, and some junglers that have been popping off in the early game just don't work that well anymore, except maybe Volibear, just because of how nicely he can tower dive. Even after the tower dives got some of their power reduced after the durability patch, it's still so risky to commit to something extra on the side lanes, and that's exactly what you want to do when you pick Lee Sin. You want to be extra from the very early on, so right now, I'm not sure how worth it is.
I think it's like the tower dives. It's a lot of his matchups as well, right? He doesn't match up very
Yes.
well into Volibear, for example, or even into Wukong, right? You definitely don't want to be playing against these champions. And then Viego is a more passive sort of champion, which you don't want to be in Lee Sin's
Scales
face.
better,
Yeah, but he
yeah.
scales so much better. And if you cannot find the tower dive, you cannot find the kicks. Even though I will say that one of our big examples of how to use Lee Sin in the late game was Soft again in that Bifrost game that they played earlier on in the split. I think this was the most successful Lee Sin that I've personally seen this split. Even though they didn't win the game, I think his kicks were spectacular. And talking about Lee Sins, I think Taxa is probably the best Lee Sin that we have mechanically in the NLC right now. So if anyone would pull it off, it could potentially be him.
But he needs to use that Smite. And we're talking about a team
He will for
Dusty.
Scuttle Crab, because at least in Summoner's Rift,
If
properly,
we could include Scuttle Crab, maybe it would be the fastest. Maybe, I don't know, but that's not the challenge. But this is a team that we're still unsure of where they are. They're in the middle of the pack, completely middle of the pack, and they're like, they win versus everyone below them, but they lose versus everyone that is ahead of them on the standings. Dusty, I do believe we had a little bit of a graphic to show you guys about that one, but if we don't show it, it's okay. Just believe my word. And they're facing versus Astralis, a team that is trying
Still
to
trust
get
us.
on the third spot. How hard is this?
I'm going to try it for you.
Okay,
So
do it.
usually Dusty lose versus anyone above them production and win versus anyone below them production. No, it's not happening. Hey! Okay, that happened.
Why did you do that?
Well, apparently, my words count more than yours. But as you can see in their wins, if you look at their KD, it looks like it's a much more dominant game from the get-go. Gold at 15, they are ahead. They're getting a bunch of more dragons. Their KDA looks better. I'm really sorry, Arthur.
Nah, it's cool. It's not like I have feelings.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it makes sense because they've lost to the 4 teams that made playoffs last season, right? And including them, that was the entire playoffs bracket that we did have last season. So they've lost to clearly teams that we consider to be top of the table right now in the NLC, both spring and summer.
But now versus Astralis, a team that is trying to rise into the stars. And it's quite curious that the team Astralis at LEC is popping, and the team back at NLC is also
I
popping.
think our academies are doing great, you know.
They are.
XL, NLC, LEC, Astralis, LEC, NLC. The academies are like popping off.
Something is happening with the academies. Are they good
The
enough?
academy water.
The water?
The water.
Okay, looking into the Champion Select before we move on. It's really close to us, so the Champion Select is about to hit us in the face. What do we expect?
Just
Protecting yourself. Do you
I'm
want a card?
protecting myself because you almost hit me.
Oh, it's that it is! Okay, Champion Select comes in. Astralis Talent versus Dusty.
Don't worry, it wasn't as bad as what he printed about Tryndamere and Ash. It's fine.
I agree 100%. I'm afraid of Hiprain and he's sleeping on my house. So yeah, I'm locking every single door at night. Looking into
kidding me?
Carlson versus Kerberos. That to me is going to be spicy, interesting, and a bloodbath.
I feel
I
if,
know you like that one.
I feel if anything, Carlson has been a great neutralizer to any aggressive top lane that he's played against. Back in spring, he used to be a bit of a... If you put him on weak side duty, and if you didn't give him a bunch of resources, he would sometimes fall massively behind to the point where he wouldn't be very relevant in the game. But I feel like right now, holding his own, and then later on, if you do end up putting him on something like a carry, he's been popping off on that as well.
It's in general the team that tries to neutralize and loves to neutralize their opponents. They love playing from the mistakes that their enemies are making. They love catching these mistakes and punishing them. And I feel like that's why this top lane for Astralis is so strong, because it's exactly what they want to be doing. And I want to see a strong carry on the top side of Astralis. I want to see somebody who can be evolved into a hyper carry later in the game.
Because if he doesn't, we might get to see a Darius
Talking about
win
hyper
again.
carries,
Yeah.
talking about hyper carries, Lucian is up for grabs. Also, Senna is up for grabs. And talking about hyper carries, it's Astralis, it's Grisberg. I'm a little bit biased because I follow Crispy's career since 2019 summer when he actually won the Nordics, and I think that this pick is right up his alley, and it's right up Astralis' alley as well. They like to scale towards that late game and having this more front-to-back team fight, and Senna provides just that. Now, it's very curious that we've seen a lot of Lucians being open up and available and not actually being picked, or even like Volibears. So it feels like the jungle prio has fallen secondary to whatever bot lanes or mid lanes the teams choose to pick.
Especially bot lanes, to be honest. Bot lane picks are feeling so crucial right now, both the AD carries and the supports.
Nah.
Really?
That's a 31 KDA Graves. Oh, you didn't know that one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So here comes the Graves on the other side. You can go for something more passive, like towards the late game as well. It could be the Viego alongside with the Senna. This is a tough combo to deal in the late
So, just to the fact that it's Astralis, I'd rather them not pick the Volibear and lock in something like the Viego, because they do like to play a little bit of a slower, methodical game where they scale into the late and then they start fighting. And that's exactly what they can do here. You know, Senatam Kent down the bottom of the map, just scale into Oblivion. Viego can just shadow lanes, making sure they're safe. Dusty have a Graves. It's not like it's going to be a hyper-aggressive Graves like Stefan does, for example, with the Graves. So it's mainly going to be junglers shadowing their lanes, making sure that they scale into the late game, and we're up for a very late game fiesta. I'm really sorry, Heatbrain, but this doesn't look very bloodthirsty.
You can see his face already looking at, this is going to be a 50-minute game. But also...
You know what can make it better? Koki Azir, but they're both banned.
But also, if you're looking into Graves, we're looking into a jungler. If he goes jungle, I don't know if he's going top, but if he goes jungle, which I think is going to be, you need a lot of CC to set up these plays for the Graves. If you really want to gank, if you really want to give advantage.
We've got Nautilus.
Yeah, what else do you need?
Seraphine, a lot of that setup is right there for you. We know that Kerberos also likes to play things like the Camille on the top side of the map, so there could be more setup right there. But at this point, I think a front to back is so much more important for Dusty. So you're looking for maybe something active towards the top side of the map, just having Kerberos do Kerberos things and to snowball the game towards the top side of the map, while the rest of the team is possibly going to be surrounding Kerberos later on, because when you have a Seraphine in the team, it's just so easy to run these short-range melee compositions, and Kerberos thrives in those situations.
And you don't need to aim for super aggressive early game here when you're playing against Astralis, because first of all, you know that they're going to scale. Secondly, you know that they can very well play from behind.
It's Astralis.
Yeah, so second of all, it's Astralis, but they play from behind very well. It doesn't make too much sense to try to shut them down early too much, because most probably they will find a way to bounce back.
Team that is still trying to go into that second spot, so important as well, in finishing the first half of a split with the win versus Dusty would be really important for them. But there you go. We finish up with the bans.
So,
Camille is off.
I'm thinking with the bans that I'm seeing right now, and especially the Camille ban, we might be looking for a Nah towards the top of the map. Definitely don't want to be playing into Camille. Carlson does really favor his Nah, does really well into laning phase, blind as well into Kerberos. Now what I'm really worried here is that yes, this is Backland's Yasuo, but if you do pick the Nah, there's still a Tryndamere for Kerberos coming up, and it could be another side lane nuisance for Dusty this time and not Riddle. So I really like this. Senkax has been favoring the Ahri very much. It's pretty good in the early game. I just would love to see how it will fare up against the Yasuo, because the Yasuo has a pretty easy button into the backline, right? Nautilus is just gonna point the click, and then Yasuo will just dive in. Who is he diving in with though? And I think this answer is going to come on the R5 from Kerberos, and it could very easily be that Tryndamere.
And I have a question. If you pick the Tryndamere, don't you have a lot of AD and rely only on the Seraphine to deal with the AP?
You do? You do, but there's not a lot of tanks that can shut you down. Yes, there's Viego who's tanky. Yes, there's Tam Kent, but he's also not a tank because he's support. He doesn't get to build that many items. And then all you need to do is just bonk that Senna. Okay, this is another Kerber surprise right here. He's gonna go full tank.
Or
is
maybe-
he? Or is he? Or is he gonna be the Prowler's Claw, Sion?
It's the Death Angle on the top side if he brings that Prowler's Claw. No, I don't know. But looking into both compositions, Salari, I want your take. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very unsure right now. I am looking at these
The feeling.
compositions, and they're both very strong, and they both have ways around each other. So here again, it will just come to the execution. But honestly, I have a little bit more faith in Astralis. They have the mobility, they have the Senna that is going to provide the support for her front laners, and she has enough of them to make sure that she's going to be very useful in the team fights. So I think this looks slightly stronger to me.
I do like the front to back from Astralis. It is their bread and butter anyway. That's how they want to play the fights. But does they always have that clutch factor that comes from the jungler in particular, Linkus? And right now, unfortunately for them, he is on the grave. So we're waiting for scaling later on. I just want to see how Kerberos is going to utilize that Sion because as you mentioned, Solari, they do have a bunch of mobility on the side of Astralis. And honestly, I'm also worried for backline because I'm like, you've got an easy way into the backline with a Nautilus ult, but who's diving in with you?
Gonna be kind of lonely back there if Sion doesn't follow you, while Dusty are trying to shoot for the stars. But in order to do that, they have to themselves. As we jump for another game, Hiprain, Nightmare, how you doing?
I'm doing good, baby. How's it going? We're getting ready to go into our third game of the day. Very, very spicy draft coming out. Obviously, Dusty picking up this Yasuo, the Sion as well. I do think, the problem with this is it's fairly situational in the way they have to set themselves up for fights. I think Astralis have a more reliable team. I think that's fair.
I think that's completely true because when are you ever going to catch Senna? Because while I know that Trouble was saying actually there aren't that many tanks to deal with, trying to use everything onto a Tahm Kench is not really what you want, and you're probably going to have to do that because they're going to be the one between you and the Senna.
Yeah.
Now, I think that Senna is going to be fairly safe at this point, so it is a battle between actually whose carries are safer. I think that Tahm Kench alongside something like a Mega Gnar playing Disruption with the mobility also on the side of Astralis, I think that, again, that front to back is going to be much easier for them to play out. Of course, everything else can still go very wrong. What happens if Yasuo gets a massive lead? Maybe something can happen with that, but still, I think on paper, goes into those 5v5s, Astralis probably feeling favorable.
Well, we're loading through onto the Rift for our third game of the day, our first of the
I know it's been a
half.
quick day, but damn.
Going to be Astralis taking on Dusty. Some interesting picks. This is kind of the game to watch, or one of the games we've been excited for today. I think these two
For sure.
really matched in capabilities, and also right now in the standings, there's only 1 point between them. If Dusty win this, they exit the first half of the tournament equal to Astralis, which is going to be a really, really big help for them going into that second half. But they have drafted themselves a team which is either capable of Omega snowballing or just...
Omega lulling.
Yeah, or going, well, Yasuo spikes in 4 more deaths and then maybe...
Speaking of that, coming out of the first round robin with a winning record, though, Dusty haven't beaten anyone above them in the standings so far. We talked about that in the pre-game, of course, bring that up, because they have been a team that's been able to punch down, not necessarily punch up. If they were to win this, though, technically they would be even with them. Maybe that's the way that they could break that particular curse. But as we said, from the picks alone, they've got a little bit of work to be doing with that. It's not a clear draft win for either side, but if Dusty do go straight down the middle of this team composition, going to find a couple of issues with it.
Do you know what this game's lacking, other than Gnar? Some furry friends. Our pets.
Right.
Here's the transition. I'm going to press a button. Let's see what your pets are doing. No, there we are. NLC at home. That's not a pet. That's a laptop.
It's on buttons 2 and 3, I feel.
Oh, okay. I'll close that then, and then I'm going to press that one, and then...
Yeah!
Oh, kitty cats.
Aw, I'm a cat person. I like cats.
I like all animals. I'm an animal person.
Yeah.
Recently, I was telling you about this earlier, but recently my my Instagram is just filled with ferrets. Like, I don't know how the algorithm...
How do they get in there? They got into the servers. The ferrets are everywhere.
Been otters for a long time. Otters are my favorite animal. I love them.
Aw.
And then I guess they went, well, what about land otters? And they just gave me ferrets.
Ferrets are land otters confirmed. I hadn't thought about that.
Difference is otters have thumbs.
I d-
They actually do. They have opposable thumbs.
They also have waterproof fur.
Yeah. And adorable little squeals.
I guess one thing we should forget about, you know, otters are
Gunsmith.
technically apex predators. Oh, we have a lane swap. Right, that's more important. Right, this is actually going to be Yasuo into Gnar on the top side. Now, we saw this from Tatui, outgoing top laner of Singularity. Played that last week even. And reminder, this is something where the Yasuo counters mini Gnar specifically. If you wind wall the boomerang, or the boomerang rather, you don't get to catch that and get the refund on it. So you don't get to continually spam out that Q, which is where a lot of your early game damage and access to proccing those hyper procs comes through. So there are plenty of ways to work around that. Now, what this does mean is that you're left with the Ahri into the Scion. I have played this matchup on time when people have made it here, and it can get a bit rough. You've got a lot of setup, and Kerberos probably going to have to flash away from this one.
He's able to dodge around the charm, so he's
Lucky.
able to walk away because of that. So nice stuff there from Kerb. Able to hold his spells. I mean, no matter what, he was going to be in a lane where he was just going to be getting harassed constantly. So I guess, you know, might as well make sure that you put your Yasuo in as good a lane as possible.
So actually, I'm just remembering back to the last time I personally played this matchup. I was playing against a Scion who went Prowler's Claw, and I was an AD Ahri, so it's completely not the same as what's happening on the Rift here. It was a weird time. It looks like we're going to have more towards that tank. It's the Grasp. It's not going to be something like Glacial, which you can... Or something like Phase Rush, actually. More of the common era of Scion tends to be. And then, of course, Ahri continuing with that Electrocute. That's good damage, though.
That is very good damage, although shield comes in from the W, and Kerb is going to be able to
Imagine
survive
how much damage you'd be doing if you had Lethal Tempo right now.
Do you remember once upon a time, quite a few seasons ago, the #1 Ahri in Korea was a bot lane AD Ahri?
Yes! So the guy in NA that did this was a guy called Chubzilla, and I actually chatted to the guy a while ago, because he reached Grandmaster over in NA, and that was actually quite impressive, considering that basically no Ahri above, like, Master really happened at that point, because the champion was much less reliable, and much less people put the time in to really master that champion at that point. Of course, not the case now in... current League of Legends has been so meta for this season for the first time since really Season 4, maybe bits of Season 5, and Sencup's picking up this champion, has a sizable CS lead, but you wouldn't see it on the scoreboard because the Yasuo and the Scion are still in the same places.
They are. Kind of missed that, unfortunately, but it's fine.
Like, that's no CS lead. Hang on a second.
Hold up a minute. Yeah, stop the presses.
Okay, seriously, observers, is there any way we could switch the Yasuo and the Scion? Because my eyes are like drifting all over the place, going like, hang on, what's happening with the CS leads?
Like a chameleon.
Oh, right, okay, so what is this actually going to mean, though? Because actually what this has meant is Dusty have had points where the Scion has been pushing in the Ahri. Now, Ahri is pretty reliable on how they manage to push into these lanes. Typically, Ahri is very happy to get priority and out-trade. We can see the out-trading, but there was a teleport back to lane. You've got the Corrupting Potion on Scion. And of course, all of Scion's abilities are really, really good at wave clearing. Kerberos walking up, getting vision. 2 pink wards actually put down on that bot side. But if you lose both of these, that's not only losing a lot of vision. In terms of early gold, that's really annoying. They're losing both pink wards and bot side. That's actually a fair amount of gold going over to the side of Astralis and lost from Dusty.
Yeah, that was Taxa just... He's very happy with that 60G he just cashed in on, and a normal ward as well. This man's getting more wards than jungle camps as of late.
And that vision was really important because you are aware of what's happening with maybe a Tom Kench Abyssal Dive going forwards, Ahri roaming out a lane. You can see that Linkas says, as soon as they've lost that vision, Linkas turns up, pushes out that wave. I'm wondering what he's going to do with his vision now, because now he's going to go and try and reclaim some of that vision, which Astralis just cleared out. I think that is the appropriate response. They're going to go straight towards that dragon. You do have level 6s to play around. That Scion ult particularly already kind of annoying to play against, so Astralis kind of seeing the encroaching movements of Dusty towards that area. Just going to leave that one and leave that dragon to go over to Dusty.
Oh, there we go. Dragon is a freebie for Dusty. Picking up the first one. Crab as well and everything. Lucas finishing up his smite as well, so got that upgraded for himself, but buckle up. It's not going to be like our first 2 games. It's going to be a much slower paced game. These teams have a lot of scaling, a lot of late game they want to play towards, or at least a mid game. So at the moment in the early game, they're pretty cool and both quite happy, just chilling.
Because it's so calm and chill, and it doesn't look like we're going to get a play right now. You had a fact about snails earlier. Now, I actually have a fun fact about crabs. Did you know there is a word called carcinogenesis?
No.
it means that evolution tends all crustaceans toward crabs. Multiple beings have actually independently evolved into crabs.
Oh,
Crabs are just apparently the peak form of nature. So maybe that's why we have scuttle crabs on the Rift. It's another great example of this word in action. There you go. Fact from me
that's
today.
a cool crab. I like. That's a cool crab. That's a cool fact.
Cool crab. Yeah, it is a cool
my
crab.
mind's becoming a crab.
Gives you 100 gold when you kill it.
I mean, that is creepy because crabs are.
It's really strange.
Aren't they related to scorpions?
I'm not.
Does that mean we're gonna get scorpions turning
Scorpion
into crabs?
crabs?
Oh no.
This is like weirdly getting towards like something either Skyrim or Elden Ring, and I'm not sure either is a really great end point at this point. Look, there's another crab-like thing in the top river. They're everywhere.
200 years since humanity died. Nothing but crabs. Crab horses. Crab giraffes. Crab lions.
Well, as we're having that wildlife rift tour around it, we're gonna go have the T-tours as the camera pans up towards again. What are these crustacean-like fellows on the top side? Shelly getting leashed by Astralis, taken by Dusty though, and I really like how they are using the threat of the Scion into the Yasuo combo very early on to push Astralis out of the areas of the map which they might want to be fighting on. Typically, with this mid-jungle duo of Ahri and Viego, you're expecting early control, and they haven't actually been given it, have Astralis. This would be a bad mistake to make there from Voksne.
Yeah, but he's going to get himself licked. Throws out the charm, but it only lands onto one. The root follows up, and Foxy's able to jump out Kabar. Able to flash forward, lands the tongue lash, but in comes Linkus with the blind. Den goes out of it, and it is first blood to Linkus.
Oh, just a little too far, and Kiba thinks maybe he's got enough damage with the passive, that acquired taste. Lands the stun, of course, with the Q, but one of the big changes they made with modern era Tahm Kench after those changes was you don't get to keep that acquired taste passive on people that you get the fully stacked Q on. So they couldn't get the Devour afterwards, which is obviously a large amount of damage on that enemy target. Then Voksne manages to play it safely enough, gets away with a bit of a gift there.
Yeah. Free kill for the jungle as well. Linkus going to be feeling very, very happy on that one. Obviously, Voksne doesn't have any summoner spells up available, but neither does Kiva. So, obviously, a little bit easier to punish the Seraphine than it is the DK, but you do still have that as a potential window. And it looks like this lane swap is now over. The Yasuo happy with the farm they've been able to get. So, observers, I know we asked you to swap it, but it looks like it's time to swap it.
Well, just in time to really confuse us again. So, Backlink going to head back towards this mid lane. Gone for that Zeal first. We see this a lot on Yasuo and Yone because getting something like a Noon Quiver, it's great in terms of attack speed. But of course, with the double value you get on crits, any amount of crit chance is better than having 0 crit chance, of course, because it means you have a chance to crit. And I believe the way that League codes its crits means that it's very important to get... It was back in the day where you used to get 1% crit runes, because that actually gave you significant chance to crit, even though it was, of course, quite low chance for it. But now you have that Backland in a position of relative power with this back, a lot of attack speed, of course has the lethal tempo as well. That's going to be a lot of knockups if you get on top of someone. So see what Backland can do. And what this also means is that this Yasuo has now escaped the early Ahri matchup, which I am a big fan of. I think that Ahri really, really does punish melee champions. You can see, of course, there's like a 30 CS lead for Senkux over Kerberos in that last part of the laning matchup. Someone like a Yasuo can get very much punished by Ahri, but now you're at a point where you can start all-inning, dashing through that wave as Backland is doing right now. And I think Dusty, with this lane swap, have found some advantages over it, even with the CS advantages going on the side of Astralis.
Kiva just able to get out, but the depth charge comes in, and Backland will jump in, catches him out with the last breath, and Kiva goes down to the Yasuo. They're going to keep the pressure up, finding the knock-up, and a double kill for Backland on the Yasuo.
And that is why the vision control is so important. Seeing them fighting over it the entire game so far. Carlson looking to make a play on top side, though.
That's the ult, but he is out of time, flashes away. It has been an experience for Kerberos this game, unfortunately. Had to lane versus the Ahri, now comes into the Gnar, who's kind of had a chill laning phase himself, and he goes, well, I'm not really set up for anything here.
So with this, cross-map not really able to be capitalized on for Astralis. It's a Herald down. Of course, remember that Astralis tried to avoid the fight around that Herald, and it has felt like Astralis have had to avoid the fight so far. When they get to 5-on-5s, maybe that'll change, but at the point it is right now, Tahm Kench not tanky enough. You don't have that first item, even as a farming Tahm Kench. And I actually feel like that Devour kind of sends Christmas to his death. He gets popped over the wall, doesn't get to be able to get spat out because Tomgench dies. The flash then has to come through, and Christmas sadly goes down as well. So 2 kills to that Yasuo. You know what we're talking about pre-game, just to be loaded onto that rift. Maybe things change if Yasuo gets a large lead. 2 kills, it's getting towards that point. Dusty, through some innovation in the early game, a little bit of imagination, they've got themselves into pretty good point of power now.
Yeah, we were kind of hitting on how Astralis had a very consistent team. Like, it's very clear their conditions. Dusty, it's also clear their conditions, but it's obviously harder to hit those conditions to actually set yourself up. But you now got 2 kills on your Yasuo. He's pretty comfortable with the position
this
right now.
is a pretty bad mistake.
Then Voksne is able to get a plate and a double root, but I mean, there's not really going to be too much more he can do other than go down here. They're even going to make sure that Keeper doesn't get the assist as he misses the lick. But nice, easy kill picked up for Taxa there on that Viego. And Dusty, I mean, I don't think they're going to be able to go for a dive top lane onto Carlson. He's strong.
I mean, you have a Scion, right? You need the Yasuo there. If the Scion is in that lane, you don't really have any kind of pressure on that Gnar, who's already got those Tabby against an entire AD top side. Now, while Linkus does manage to go into the enemy jungle and steal away some camps, Taxa is trying to do the same on bot side, but Taxa currently 2 levels down, and Linkus fails the smites. Doesn't even get that kind of rubber band experience, trying to prop himself back into that game. And now Taxa gets gifted that kill on bot side, probably because he was so far behind that curve, but isn't getting access to farm to keep himself relevant with the Graves, who's absolutely farming up a mountain.
Yeah, he is starting to worry on that front. If you look at the items as well, see, the Divine Sundra has been finished up, but Linkus got that Eclipse and had that Eclipse for quite a while now, so should be closing in on getting at least a major component towards his next item. Backland hasn't finished up that Immortal Shield Bow, but has obviously sidetracked a little bit into the Zeal, as a lot of Yasuos do. And actually, now they're looking at Taxa. Taxa being denied his walls. Backland making sure that gets picked up, but he has himself the knock-up, misses out, but the death charge is going to be broken by the Heartbreaker, so they can't chase for more. And Senkak's able to jump away. A cheeky wind wall just to make sure that there wasn't anything coming out. And that is going to be all she wrote as, Voksne able to dodge away on the top and the knockup.
So a swing and a miss on both sides of the map, but what Dusty did was fairly intelligent around this attempted pick onto Taxa, because Linkus obviously steals away part of that jungle, scouts out Viego on that bot side of the jungle, says, okay, well, he's going to take X amount of time to get towards that top side. We're going to go revisit that. We have the vision to go make that play. Stop Taxa from getting another camp, and then, of course, get to force out the Ahri ultimate at the same time. Again, just making sure that they're controlling where Viego is on the map for that minute of play. See if they can do that a little later into the game and control where Astralis as a whole can go, because Dusty do have pockets of vision to start making plays around. Instead, with their flash just to be back available, obviously a big threat towards Astralis wants to do on the map.
I mean, speaking of those pockets of vision, though, Astralis have found themselves in a pocket, able to move through into the jungle and threaten Den Voksne for the tower dive. They're not feeling it as Sten has come back onto the map. The question for me now is, where is Linkus going to go? He's got this Rift Herald in his pocket. Ideally, I'd actually like to see it go down mid. Just try and funnel into backline as much as possible. Opens up the map massively. You were talking about this vision control as well. It leans into that. Linkus is just perma-invading right now. If you continue to take towers, or you take mid lane tower, you can continue to invade because it's safer to do so. You have more ways out of the jungle. You also just have more safety because you can push the wave up. People are further back, so it's harder to check for you. And Linkus, you know, this really opens up the map for him as well as it does for backline.
And I think the reason that Dusty can do that, if we look back at what's happened in the game, we talked about, oh, you know, X-Champion survived early laning phase. Because Yasuo isn't behind, is very much even, and has those 2 kills, every time there is an engage in the enemy jungle, especially because it's Infernal Rift too, Scion is probably going to be coming through into that enemy jungle, and you're going to get knocked into a Yasuo. That is pretty much instant death. Taxa can't really escape that, or is blowing either flash or ultimate, which he really doesn't want to do. Have to see how Castle can continue to do in this 1v1. I think that's maybe the breaking point for Dusty right now. If Carlson gets control of a side lane and stops Scion being able to answer, maybe Astralis can start forcing up again, a free bit of space for them to work around, because they haven't had that for a little while yet.
Oh, Curb needs to be quite careful.
this is what's
Carson's
happening.
about to gnaw out. Actually, he can get him against the wall if he's lucky. Dodges out on the wallop. And Curb just about able to get away. But if you look at the mid lane,
happening in
there's a
mid?
congregation of players. They are looking to set up for a potential something. It might just be slap this Rift Herald down, get control of the mid lane for the Dragon.
But look at
And I
this,
think
look
that
at
might
this
be the
ward
game
on the
plan.
screen right now. Carlson's actually just turned...
Oh, they got him!
Okay.
Down he goes! Easy pickup as the railgun comes out, gives Taxa a life. Remember, the Ignite is ticking
Oh,
and
that's
he dies! Backlund picks it up. They don't even need the Herald. All they need is Taxa down.
And I wonder if Astralis felt emboldened by thinking, hey, we have the winning side lane matchup. Kerberos doesn't have to teleport. Maybe we can teleport in, but they lost the mini nod. They didn't pull the trigger while the rest of that Rage Bar was enabled, nor did they even have the Devour in place to save Taxa. So now another kill down is onto the jungler who's already so far down. Dusty picking up a good amount of chained like mini victories together. They got a couple of those small wins back to back, and they get that bot lane tower without having to invest that Herald. Now you've opened up both outer turrets on the side lane, which maybe gives you an extra ability to get that mid lane as that last outer tower piece of the set.
I've got long left on this Herald though, so Linkers needs to use it. Even if it's just for the charge, it's going to be super important for them.
I
It's
think you
still doing a
can.
bit
You
of a
just
jungle.
burned the center roll. That's a big thing. Kerberos has teleport now. I think this is as good a time as any to do it. Backlund even has his ultimate up, right? I think now is the time to put that down.
Okay,
Have
he's doing it. I was a bit worried he might just forgotten he's got it in his inventory. We've seen a few people do it this season as well. Forget about their Herald.
It
and then
happens every so often.
panic.
Oh, Carlson hasn't seen him.
Oh, Carlson. Carlson, he's caught. There's the last breath.
Oh,
they interrupt
man.
the jump out. The collateral damage comes down. Carlson's about to gnaw out, and Backlund says, no, you are not. A flash forward into that Steel Tempest.
And with
They
that
are going
pick,
for it.
they still have the Herald. Linkers
Herald.
gets the warning.
Herald.
He knows it's going down. Where does he want to place it? He has a couple of choices between mid and top. Backlund happily going up towards that top lane. And Linkers, you got to use it, buddy. It's in mid. Oh, keep up. No.
Eva jumping in forward. He's going to catch himself the catch up. Sten goes golden for the moment. They get the shield on. They get everything to follow up. Teleport's coming down as well as in comes Curve to make sure this charge goes down. Backlund takes the top lane
Good
tower in the
charm.
meanwhile, but a great charm comes out from Senkox. And Taxa comes in. They get the jump back. Then Voksne throws out the encore onto 3 members. He loses his life in the meanwhile, though, as Curve has to flash away. Linkus has been slowed. They try to keep the encore up. Oh, the charm goes wide as the Herald does get the charge off and gets a whole bunch of tower onto that mid lane.
Okay, so Dusty, they make a mistake. They don't have Yasuo with their grouped unit. Remember, that's such a huge part of their combo. One Nautilus Hook goes into an ultimate, and Backlund follows up and kills someone. If Yasuo isn't there, they lose a large amount of their damage. Astralis, I was a little worried at first, thinking, oh, what the heck is Tahm Kench jumping into this river bush? He's alone, but once they had that information first, I think it is actually the right choice to go in here. Even though it does look like a 1v3. I think this is the right play. When the Yasuo's not there, you can see again what happens when you're looking for this pick. Of course, with the center and the Ari's ability to follow up, it gets quite close. But at this point, Dusty are ahead of the curve. They have their solo laners ahead of where they want to be, but with good play from Senkox playing the angles well, it very nearly turns into a snowballed fight for Astralis nonetheless.
Yeah, almost goes bad, but it doesn't quite. Close but no cigar, as you might say, is Kiba just holding on for now. This tower very, very low, and it's the last bastion of the outer turrets for the side of Astralis. And gold lead right now, 3,000 to Dusty. Then Voksne quite happy just to catch these waves in the mid. He's got the damage to clear out of it with that obviously that double spell from the passive.
Whichever one that is. The high note? Is that the high note? I'm trying to remember. There's the beat drop, there's the high note.
Beat note's the beat drop is the E, which is the snare slash slow.
Yeah.
High note is the Q. I can't remember the name of the W off the top of my head.
Well, neither can I, because I have the excuse. I'm a color caster. I just need to know what they do.
I know what the W does. It shields slash heals if it's a double.
Well, what it also allows to do is obviously group up, but again, get so much power in that grouped up unit.
No way!
Oh, gosh. Taxa didn't have the smite, couldn't end
It
up
was
securing
knocked
that.
up.
Backlund walks in, takes more jungle camps. Taxa's managed to pick up a little bit more XP, only the single level behind now, but Dusty doing, again, a really good job of just using that veiled threat and saying, yeah, you could walk up into your own jungle, but what happens if we find that engage? Continually pushing forwards, taking camps, and considering Dusty are this team, again, that hasn't won a game against a team above them in the standings just yet, this is actually very encouraging for them. This is looking like a controlled game. A couple of mistakes here and there, but it's by no means looking like they're outclassed at all. Looking like they're on par ahead of Astralis in this game.
Look at the base now. Infinity Edge just finished up for Backline. Be working towards either the likes of a Mortal Reminder or like a Phantom Dancer or something. That is a hook. That is a big hook into the knockup. The last breath comes down. Double knockup as well. Massive encore as Astralis are scattered. Linker splashes forward and just pops Chrisberg. Dusty can turn their attention towards that Baron with those three.
It's a singular set of picks. It's a Nautilus ultimate which leads into it this time. And 6-0-1 after that fight. Backland picks up that big, beefy eye edge and goes straight into that enemy team. Astralis, we said that they were kind of falling a little bit behind, playing respectful against Dusty, that they had to play respectfully, but at this point, Dusty make a handful of mistakes. Astralis make a killer one in the heat of the moment in that mid lane, which they've tried so hard to protect. They lose the mid lane out of turret. They lose the Baron. Might lose the Dragon off of this too. See how close Carlson is to finishing it. He's soloing it right now. No, Dragon. He's peeled off of it. He's peeled off of it. Okay.
Decides not worth it. Dusty gonna say it's worth it though, and they're gonna pick up their third Dragon. They're on soul point. Curb looking to blast cone out. Will be able to do so, and oh, Carson's not close enough. He doesn't flip over the wall. Curb gets out for free. Dragons taken, towers taken, Baron taken. It's all about these towers now to finish up.
So, Taxa, I kind of understand looking for that hook, but that is very dangerous. You know, I think the idea is not everyone's quite in position yet. If we land this stun, maybe this is the chance to find the pick before the fight really starts. But it's right into that Nautilus. You clump up for it, and Backland takes that in his stride. Back to the mid lane again, the scene of the crime. What can Astralis do at this point? They've tried a lot of times now, really struggling to make these kills last.
Yeah, they're just buying time though. If the encore goes out, Sten has to queue on to the tower to get away. So they do burn a little bit there from Dusty, but the encore on a relatively short cooldown, especially when you go like the likes of this Leandri build. Obviously you get a passive ability haste per item you finished up. You've got the Ceres as well, which packs a fair amount of ability haste itself. So already 1/3 of that ultimate has come back off timer, and Sten, yes, he uses the stopwatch, but he has a Zhonya's.
He actually has built the first item zones, yes. So, and I think that's fair. I think when you're up in this front line, you don't need that much time to buy. You're looking for surviving through until the encore lands, and then surviving until Yasuo follows up on some kind of knockup. I think that's enough to just be alive for a couple of seconds in that front line. Of course, the extra AP does help in terms of bursting out the first target too. Nautilus, of course, an AP heavily scaling champion. Astralis going towards this top lane, trying to defend it, but Sion has the angle. Oh my god.
Charge. You're only going to cax onto one. They're not going to chase for more. No knockups available. Yes, there is a knockup available. Tax flashes out. And there's the big pop into the wall from Carson, but he doesn't have any follow-up. It was a good ult, but it just wasn't enough. Back up as Backland is into the middle of everyone, taking them down. Hops up on the trampoline with the blast cone, and Backland survives. The heal comes in from Voksne, and the Baron push continues. Astralis are falling apart at the seams as Dusty are just picking up the tempo. We're only 25 minutes into this game, but there is a 7-0 Yasuo in the base of Astralis, and they are down 3 players.
Oh, we are in for some really quick games today. First two were at a rocket pace, particularly that first one, but coming into the third game of the day, Dusty really not slowing the tempo either. They've been quick to pull the trigger, and even when they haven't, they've been finding advantages outside of that. This Dusty lineup, one that we had so many thoughts on from spring, being this strong team in that second half of that split, being one of our top teams outside of our eventual 2 finalists, continuing to find themselves a string of form at this point. We were worried about them coming into this saying, okay, you know, they haven't really found those results outside of against the lower placed teams. But even in this fight, they just managed to play around their advantages. Link is putting out so much damage on the backline as Backland goes straight forward into the hearts of Astralis.
I didn't realize how he got into the back of that fight, because I was like, wait, he was right at the back, and then suddenly he's just in the middle of 4. It was because there was the depth charge, and he just bolted off the depth charge.
Around the back.
Beautiful stuff, and Backland 7-0-2, shield bow, got himself a chain vest, so I think he's actually going for the...
Probably GA at the end. Looks like it's GA at the end, I think that makes sense.
Could even go
Could go Death Stance.
That's the one, thank you.
Yeah,
Could potentially go Death Stance, although GA, I think, especially when you're diving in solo
He has
like
the
that.
stopwatch already, same combined gold cost at that point.
Oh, yeah.
but,
I did not even look at that.
So there is that, but then also you can just sit on stopwatch. And
True.
then also have a Death Stance. Stopwatch, obviously, one of those items where as an AD or a tank champion, you can sit there and just go, well, stopwatch is actually better for the one fight, which might end the game, and feels like you're in that kind of position, heading towards that soul point, a minute on that, and Dusty, they couldn't get that many towers with that. Well, actually, no, I was about to say. No, actually, they could get many towers with that Baron buff. Even without it, they're still crushing down some structures, resetting towards that potential killer fight for the Infernal Soul for Dusty. Astralis really, really struggling to find ways to engage, to get onto their targets. We were a little worried from Champion Select, or at least we were saying, how are you going to get towards that center? How are you actually going to get towards this backline access? Turns out with a boatload of gold on a Yasuo, tends to help you.
Absolutely. Well, he's actually has finished up that GA, so going for that. Didn't decide to pick up a stopwatch. Instead, played for the team. Watch this, Yasuo's at home. He bought control wards, so he could
Had
actually
some bad
set up for the dragon.
experiences with Yasuo's recently, Jake.
Recently, for the last like 10 years, bro, or whenever that champion
Getting
came out.
close to it, actually. 2013, of course, his release date, and playing like he's a 2020 champion in this one.
I went to the 10th birthday where they announced Valorant and all that.
Oh, yeah?
At the XL Centre. The XL Centre in London.
Oh,
Amazing.
Location.
Can't believe this game's still whole, but I can't believe Curb also isn't going down. They just don't do any damage to Astralis. There's looking for potential knock up onto multiple people. Carlson! That's a big gnaw! The railgun comes down, and Backlund, untouched, unhindered, able to find one. He gets himself another knock-up. Linkus flashes forward and takes down another. Backlund continues to be a nuisance in the middle of everyone as Chrisberg is trying to get a little bit more bonus damage out, but Taxa jumps away. Backlund has the GA, so he's okay to go down here. Passive lifesteal as well. And
That's
the
the soul.
bait is being smacked down by the minions. Chrisberg and Sencux have to make a miracle happen if they don't want to lose this game, as the first base tower will fall, and Dusty won't let anybody go away. Get the reset off as Chrisberg quickly swims away in the shadows, but down goes the second tower to the super minions. If that one minion can sort this aggro out, it looks like it's not going to do so. So the tower may stand for now.
Yeah, but it'll go down to a stiff breeze. It'll go down to it. And Astralis managed to find, off the back of yet another Carlson engage, he's found some decent Mega Knowers. It just felt like it's just too little too late against the gold value. They managed to find themselves a good fight.
Yeah.
It's just not enough. Again, you don't even pop the GA of Backlund. If Backlund's alive and Linkus is alive, you are losing that DPS department. Rarely do you see a Graves and Yasuo get this far ahead in the pro games anyway. To this point, you're getting out DPS'd at this point by these short-ranged AD champions who are continuing to roll over this. Infernal Soul on their back now. Baron also looking very... Well, it's just gone, hasn't it? It's going to be absolute DPS down. Astralis looking like this is going to be the death knell.
I think the death knell was...
Probably about 5-10 minutes ago.
They're doing that like coffin dance. They've been doing that for the last like 5 minutes.
NLC says goodbye. So we're going to see, of course, what happens in this fight, because this was Astralis kind of brute forcing themselves into this river, but this is the problem you have. You need to be so decisive on your engage. And credit to Astralis, actually, they do find a pretty decisive engage. Chrisberg, Carlson getting a large amount of AoE damage off, but again, too little, too late. Not really able to finish off absolutely everyone they need to.
I mean, Carlson is trying his hardest. We have seen multiple good Gnars from him. The problem they're having is Dusty just has stopwatches. So they Gnar in, everyone jumps forward, throws their stuff at the stunned people, and they just go, ha!
I mean, at the end of it,
that's it.
Backlund has his shield bar pop, doesn't have his GA pop, doesn't have to even like blow his flash at the end of that too. That's back up at this point. And now on 4 items, the next longsword, he's no longer playing for the team. He has a longsword. Where are your control wards, friend?
You don't need them. What are you taking other than the base? You know where everyone is.
You're taking the tactical advantage of seeing them in their fountain. Line it up, boys. See what they can do with it. Carlson going forward again. Doesn't have the flash this time, though. Dusty again, seems like they are very much on the precipice sending this one out and finding their first win against one of these upper table teams. Kerberos
quite happy just to slowly chip away at that tower as Carlson's trying to find himself the wallet, but can't quite find it though, unfortunately. 31 minutes on the clock, definitely the longest game so far today, but still a very fast-paced game as Dusty have just played this match so well. Backlund jumps in, they cancel his ultimate out, but he is not happy about that. In jumps Kerberos, they're looking for the knockout. Carson's going to find himself caught for the moment, and there are minions to taxi through. Taxa flashes away, they find the charm on with Senkugs, but it's not going to matter as Backlund will take down an inhibitor. The last inhibitor tower will fall. There are only two towers left. They flash in. Senkugs goes gold, and Senkugs will survive for just a little bit longer, but his base probably won't. And Sten is a madman with these hooks. Hook after hook is landing as they find themselves back onto Backlund, but he's still got himself the Guardian Angel to keep himself up. Another knock-up coming in. What a gnar! But it means nothing. The base is in an absolute, it's in a state. The Nexus is going to go down. 32 minutes on the clock, and Dusty just clap Astralis.
I think the really sad thing for Astralis is that last minute of play, you can see like 2 or 3 times how their comp is supposed to work into Dusty's. You can see the Devour out of the Yasuo ultimate, the Senna ultimate over the top when people try to dive in onto that first target, but they're an Infernal Soul down. They are so many thousands of gold down, and even with Carlson getting multiple Mega Gnars towards the end of that game, it was too little, it was too late. Dusty's early pressure, the lane swap, which allowed them to get this Yasuo on the board, the early kills onto them, allowed them to very cleanly and efficiently snowball through this game. Dusty, well, they hadn't had that punch upwards just yet, might be starting to make their climb.
That was a big, big win there for Dusty. It ties them up with Astralis in the standings, so they're going to be very happy with that one. But also, you know, they just executed on a comp which was realistically probably quite hard to pull off comparatively.
It required them to get that early game lead, and they got that. And actually, that's not something that many teams could do in this league, I don't think.
Amazing stuff there from Dusty, but we're going to let our analysts break this game down a little bit more. So, Archeron, over to you.
Thank you so much. And what a beating there was by Dusty versus Astralis. We were looking into a team they need to win versus the team that is on top of the standings. They're done with the bottom of it. That was a lot. And Solari, I need you to help me through this early game, because once Dusty stepped into Astralis' face, they didn't stop.
Exactly. If there is one word to describe their playstyle, it's consistency. They knew what was their plan, and they were sticking to it from very early on, and they were keeping on going. There was never a moment when they would lose the momentum. They were pushing forward constantly, not letting Astralis a moment to actually regroup and do what Astralis tend to be doing, so try to get back into the game. There was no moment they could do it, no moment for bouncing back. It's always Dusty on top.
And it all came off of the back of Backlund. He's the only remaining member of a Dusty that almost made it to EU Masters through our playoffs in spring. And the only member that stayed in the same roster is Backlund. And he's been popping off. Earlier in the split, he played his LeBlanc to a complete control and destruction in the mid game, and now his Yasuo looked so freaking clean. I also felt like the swap that they did in the early game was so important to just get the game and the lanes rolling, right? Yasuo, typical counter in a Gnar lane. You can't use your boomerang to shove in the wave really quickly. You cannot auto-attack through the wind wall either. And of course, Sion is Sion. He's just a big, beefy tank in an Ari lane. You don't have much kill pressure on him. So I love the fact that Dusty went in with this plan of swapping in the lanes, allowing Kerberos to be in the middle. And even though I felt like maybe they won't have many openings because Astralis was a little bit too mobile, I felt like Astralis just lacked a lot of damage. And my question here is, have Astralis fallen back to the same habit of we're just going to Resident Sleeper in the early game and just hopefully we scale enough in the late to hopefully get our team fight on? And even though Carlson tried and had some insane Mega Gnars, the damage lacked, the cohesion lacked.
And Dusty did a really good reply to the champion select that Astralis provided us with. This is why we're going to talk with the Voksne that played with the Seraphine on the bot side. There he is. Welcome back.
Yo.
Well, this was a decisive, insidious push from you guys versus Astralis. Run me by the plan facing Astralis before the game started.
Yeah, so we had our usual draft meet before the game, earlier today. And we were kind of talking about our different strategies, some of the different things we thought would be good against them. And yeah, funnily enough, we actually ended up predicting the all 5 champs, the pick order they actually picked. I've never had that happen before, but we were Senna, TK, Viego, Ari, and Gnar. And we were okay, so we're going to do the Yasuo science swap if they do that. And
And then they went on and won the game. Exactly. No, he's going to come back. Don't worry about that. But just getting the prediction, the entire prediction versus Astralis, to me, solidifies what you were trying to analyze. Astralis are falling back to the same trap.
It's stale and it doesn't work. It does if you're so solid where you're not going to give too much to the opponent team. But at this point, you're playing Senat and Kench. You're going to naturally fall behind. You're playing Ari into a Sion, which means you're not going to have kill pressure, especially when you have a Viego in the jungle to pair it up with Ari.
really
Then
sorry.
Voksne, welcome back.
Welcome back. You can continue your point about you just predicted
I
the
don't know why
entire
this keeps
draft.
happening.
Don't worry, man. Don't worry. No, it's not on you. It's not on you.
It's on
got
you.
It is?
Maybe.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's not on you. Don't worry about that. But yeah, you predicted the entire composition from Astralis. So you think Astralis are falling back to the same trap of we pick to the late game, and if we get there, we win. And this is why we had such a good reading of Astralis?
No, I just think we had like a really good like read on how they drafted the last couple of times, and I think that was like maybe a pattern. We were ready if they were to bring something new out, but I think it was just like, okay, if they do this, if they do what we expect them to do, or like what they've done a couple of times before, we're gonna be prepared. But also, we were like, okay, well, if they do these other things, we need to be flexible and be ready to do that. So it wasn't like we were like, okay, they're for sure 100% gonna do this draft, but it was just one of the options. We were like, okay, this actually could be what they end up drafting, something like this. We need to have an answer prepared for that. And yeah, I think we played very consistent after that. And in the game, we were very clear on what our win con was, and we played to that, which I think made us win in the end.
And then Voksne, we know you, especially in the Nordics, as one of the better hyper carries that we have, especially like on things like Jinx, Aphelios, or whatever you name it, you play it. But we've seen you on Soraka, Seraphine, we've seen you pick the Vayne. Tell me how all this adaptability that you bring to the team helps your team create drafts that maybe will catch your opponents off guard.
I think it for sure helps right now in the meta. Like, I think there are so many viable picks and options, and usually it's like a rock paper scissors or more like complex version of that kind of in the meta at the moment. And like having access to more of those like tools just give you the ability to counter certain drafts a lot easier. I think all of us are kind of flexible in that way, which I think is like a blessing and a curse. We need to figure out which one strategy are we actually going for, but we have so many different strategies we can bring out. So I think that's the main reason why we could bring this out. We were able to flex the side mid or like put Backlund top. He had no problem playing laning top lane. We had Kerberos on mid lane. Like, we were kind of versatile enough to pull it off, which I think is a huge benefactor in this specific meta when there's enchanters on bot, hyper carries on bot, like engage supports on bot. There's Senna lanes, there's Swain, and all these crazy stuff.
Okay, one last quick question on that one.
Yeah, take it.
Have you guys ever argued on who's going to get their hands on which champion? I don't know, because there's like a Yasuo in the mid lane, right? Maybe Kevin was like, oh, I want the Yasuo top. And maybe you were like, oh, I want to play Yasuo bot lane, with Nautilus. Have you ever guys had that? It's like arguing in quotation, right?
Not really, because I think we are pretty clear when we pick a champ, like it's a flex, right? So it's if they put this on mid, we put Yasuo mid. If they put this on top, we put Yasuo top. Or so it's more of a where is it actually best, or like what is our strategy if they pick certain champions in the meta. I don't think it's like as flexible as you just put it somewhere. Like you pick the Yasuo and you're like, okay, you can just put it anywhere. It's kind of like, okay, well, you have the Yasuo top side, so you cannot just put anything on bot, right? We had the Seraphine, which is a very good weak siding pick, and they also had the Senna Tam Kenshi that's not really good at punishing it, right? So it depends on a lot of factors in those scenarios. So we don't really argue about it. It's just about like talking about, okay, where do we actually think it's best to put the different picks?
Okay. Thank you so much for that answer, and good wrap up on the first half of the split. Good luck on the second one. You guys are climbing to the top of it, and let's see what happens. See you, mate.
See you. Thank you for the talk.
He always waves.
Yeah.
Then Voksne always waves.
Very elaborate as well. But I did want the beef a little bit. It's like, yeah, like Backland is a good Yasuo, but I can play it better in the bot lane, like Kerber's being like, yeah, also you had to play Yasuo better. I play Darius that way, and I can play it on Yasuo. I want a little bit of that, like, fun beef between the players. But it's cool to see the flexibility, right? Everyone playing everything and knowing that, oh, we pick Yasuo, we can put it anywhere on the map.
I would say to you, this is like a smile for this team because this is a team that was in the middle of the pack and now they're really close to the second place. So is this what we expect as we move onwards in the league, like more action in the middle of the pack and maybe more blood, as you put it out most of the times?
I hope so.
You say that a lot of times. Yeah, I'm afraid.
Maybe
Is that it?
Maybe it should be.
Maybe it should be. Thank you for that answer. As we do have Toxer on the other side from Astralis, the jungler, that is ready for us. Toxer, are you there? Oh, there
Hello,
he is.
man.
There
How
he
are you
is.
doing?
How do you feel knowing that if you smited the Gromp, you would be first place uncontested so far?
I knew it, man. I knew you would start with that
Made it.
question.
Oh, in the Lee Sin thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel a bit scammed because you guys said that you might be able to like take the 450 HP away from the Gromp and then give me like a bit of a better time, but you didn't even do that. So
I'm gonna let you know, and this is live, okay? Everybody's listening to me. I made that proposition, but I'm a host. And my word
Okay.
means that. So yeah, you would be first place if they took those 453 damage, but it's not happening. I see it's not happening. Okay, moving on to this game. Obviously, you guys picked up a lot of late game, but it would be a quest to get into that late game. Was the plan just slowing it down as cold as you could get? Run me
I
by
think-
the plan, yeah.
I think we actually don't have that much of a late game comp. I think we can do a lot early, especially with Ari and me. I think we just missed a lot of opportunities. We could have done so much more early game. We should have gotten the Herald as well, and we just misexecuted completely.
Taxer, I want to take a tweet that you actually put out, I think it was last week, if I'm not wrong. It was after the 2-0 week you guys had. And you're like, I'm really happy for the 2-0 week, but we're still hesitant and we're still slow in the early game. Have there been a bunch of steps that you guys have taken towards being a little bit more active and a little bit more proactive towards like the other teams you're going to be playing that are on the top of the pack?
I mean, we're definitely working on those things, and we are aware of it. And I think we did a bad job today of doing better. But I mean, we all know it's there, and we're just trying to get better every day. And hopefully next week or on Wednesday it will be better.
Okay, we're gonna wrap up the first half of the split. How do you feel in your position right now? Because you're now tied up versus Dusty, which means they take the upper lead. How do you feel your chances are moving on to the second half of the split?
I mean, I'm really confident. If we play good like we do in scrim sometimes, then I'm sure that we will be able to like maybe even go undefeated. Who knows? If we get unleashed and we actually grow some balls, then probably we'll be fine.
Unleashed Astralis? I'd love to see that.
Like the way you just replied, the entire sentence, like, I'm gonna quote this one entirely, and I hope no one punishes me.
We're
But,
going to grow some and get unleashed and go
Yeah.
undefeated. There you go.
Okay, I'm gonna play Lee Sin.
Maybe.
Okay.
I
I
hope
would like
so.
to see that one. No, thank you so much, Tax. It is always a pleasure to talk with you, and good luck on the second half of the split. I want to see that undefeated, uncontested Astralis. To the stars! You know, I love it.
Unleashed.
Unleashed. How do you feel about this confidence in a player?
It says a lot. I want some actions behind the words always, but the words feel very confident. One thing I really want from them, not for them to unleash themselves, to be honest. I want the adaptability, because we saw how adaptable Dusty were in this game, and I feel like Astralis are lacking it, not just in the game that we just saw, but in general. Like you said, Trouble, a little bit stale with the tactic they're going with. There needs to be something new added, and then maybe that's what will unleash them finally.
In my opinion, if I may, I would like to see Toxic unleashed while he's playing Lee Sin, just ripping his shirt off. And that would be a really good post. And this is why. We're going to look in the standings, and afterwards
This is
we're going to
why
play a
you're
game.
the host and not his coach.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Guide me through this one, Solari, because out of a sudden, Dusty are now 5-4, looking into Astralis, and even though they're tied, I do believe since they won versus Astralis, that pushes them a little bit above.
They kind of broke the pattern that was with them before, with the losing to the teams above them and winning with the teams below them. So now there is a chance after the pattern's broken, you never know what exactly is going to happen. So anything can happen.
I'm telling you, man, if Bifrost lose to Vanet and next 7 most likely win versus Singularity,
Oh boy.
it's complete chaos.
Yeah, so far it's been working. Exactly what you said before the previous game. So your plan is working.
I'm scared for these two on the desk, by the way. Moving on into what I was talking about, like photos.